Welcome, everybody, to another week of the teams as we discuss the round 4 clash against Port Adelaide in Adelaide on Sunday. As always, a big shout out to our sponsors of this segment, Southside Pizza. Make sure you head down there towards Moorabbin Way and grab your slice before the footy, maybe tonight for a dinner or perhaps a pre-dinner on Sunday or maybe a very late lunch. But yeah, make sure you go down and check them out. They do great pizzas down at Southside. First off, welcome to Woody. I believe it's your first time on the show, so welcome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Alana. Cheers.
And welcome, Ollie. How are we?
Good to be back again.
Especially after that awesome second half in particular. What a win. How are we feeling? I imagine we're feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I mean it was kind of one of those ones. Halftime, I was a little bit worried, but from there it was almost a perfect game, So very happy.
Yeah, able to relax a little bit in the second half, which is always nice, especially when you're at the game. You don't have to be on the edge of your seat. And special shout out to the crowd at the end of the game for the Mason Wood chant. That was, considering it was 41, I think it was 41,000. There would have been a lot of Tigers fans there. For all the Saints fans who stuck around, it was nice to be able to come home and watch the coverage and hear it on the TV as well. So it's always nice when we get that through.
So good. And I reckon Mason loves it as well. And I particularly love it when we play Collingwood too, just because they're like, what are you trying to do? But it's always nice. And I agree, at halftime I was just like, is this just a typical Saints game where this is just a slog and I think we'll win, but it will just be like some tight game. We'll end up winning by like a goal or two and it will just be like, come on, what are we doing? So it was so nice to just watch the team come out and completely rip them to shreds. I just love that last quarter, even like Collard's run down tackle, like just such good intensity and good vibes to carry on and really bury a team that, I mean, we haven't had a win like this in 10 years. So to kick 20 goals, I think it was a 70-point deficit after halftime, which is just crazy. I don't care who you're playing. That's just a huge result. So yeah, really, really impressed. I wanted a 10-goal win. They ticked that box for me. So yeah, I was just really stoked. It was just party time after halftime, and yeah, I couldn't get enough of it. So a bit disappointed that we now have to go play our bogey side in Adelaide. But if there's any week to turn it around, coming off an 80-point annihilation, this is the week to do it. So let's draw our attention now to the teams. Given that it's a Sunday game, obviously this is an extended side with the extended bench. So we don't know exactly who will be in, but we can confirm that Liam O'Connell is proving to be quite a tough nut in his handful of games. Not even like, what is it, three games or so that he's played. He's already putting his body on the line for us. So unfortunately, he will miss with those protocols. So good to see that Steele's straight back in. He was one I was really concerned about when he was laid out, especially with a knee. It's just I always just get like Lenny Hayes vibes back when he did his knee, randomly sort of played out a game and then was done. So whenever I see a player, particularly in the midfield, who's done his knee, I just get PTSD. But thankfully, Steely's going to come back straight in. So other one to think of is Stocker, who also had that concussion the week earlier. So nice that he's potentially only missed a week. But I guess it brings forth the question of who makes way after an 80-point thumping. It's pretty tough. So what are we thinking? Who does make way? Because I'd imagine I'd be trying to get Stocker back into the team if it was me, but I'm keen to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I'm fairly similar. I'd want to see Stock in the team. Mostly, like he's a great flyer of the flag, and Port's a fairly strong in the guts team. So, I mean, if we can have a few more hard bodies in there, that's great. But yeah, I think he locks down pretty well defensively. We can always use another player like that. I do remember Jimmy was a bit sore towards the end of last week. It's good to see that by the looks of things hasn't kind of meant anything. And yeah, I mean, at this stage, it's hard to say. I'm kind of leaning towards Hasty, but I've got other reasons that might go like keeping him in as well. He took over for O'Connell, didn't potentially get a lot of the ball, but O'Connell's not known for getting a ton of the ball in his time. He's kind of a bit more of a lockdown. So, I mean, if he did that job fairly well, and like I was at the game, to be honest, I didn't see him a ton, but if you're doing a lockdown job, I think that's probably a good thing. So maybe Hasty stays in. It's hard to say.
I think we're all in a similar boat in that the main sort of guy that we're looking at sort of dropping this week would be Hasty. I think mainly it's because Liam O'Connell brings a bit more size and Liam Stocker shares that sort of trait, whereas Hasty's more slight. I still would prefer to. I'm not the biggest fan of Ryan Burns personally. He's done a lot of good stuff, had a few really standout games, but I feel like halfback is not necessarily a spot that. Well, he's listed halfback, doesn't mean he's going to line up halfback, but we'll probably get to it later. But I still feel like he's a good sub option. But yeah, unless there's injuries we don't know about that have come up during the week, I don't see it being much different to Steele and Stocker in for O'Connell and Hasty. Although Boxall was really good in the twos, Harry Boyd dominated as well. But I thought Ari would have been a chance personally, just size-wise. He was incredible in the twos, had over 30 touches and a goal. Hopefully Hugh Boxall, with his numbers he's putting up in the VFL, hopefully he doesn't become the Hugo Garcia of last year. High disposal, high tackle, scoreboard impact, but can't play ones. We'll see how it plays out though.
I'll be honest, if we can get another Hugo, I'll be pretty happy.
Yeah, Boxall's a tough one. Like, I think it's a matter of time before he does come in, and I guess he's just got to bide his time and keep doing what he's doing in the VFL. As I said, it's hard to break into a team that's winning by 80 points, so I guess he'll just have to wait it out. And then I guess a similar case with Ari. I agree. He seems to really dominate at VFL level, definitely in terms of disposal. I don't tend to get to watch a lot of VFL games, so I'm not too sure how he goes sort of like a one-on-one as a defender. Like maybe there's a few things he still has to work on. Maybe there's someone who watches a bit more VFL who can give a bit more insight into that. And then the same sort of thing with Boyd, I think with Marshall, particularly his second half, like the whole team. But I was sort of saying at halftime, if Marshall can get going, because Nankervis doesn't have the tank, and Marshall did exactly that second half. He just ran Nankervis off his feet from what I could see. So I just don't see Boyd coming in while Marshall seems to handle that one ruck position so well, which is maybe unfortunate for Boyd, but I guess he'll just have to wait and see if he can get back in.
Second thought, Rowan Marshall looked a little bit. I can't remember who it was, but someone came across his knee or ankle in the third quarter, and he went off for a while, or early last quarter. So maybe Harry Boyd's a chance to come in just to give him a chop out, but similar to round one where he was a little underdone if he's not feeling too fit. But yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, for me, I don't think Boyd would end up playing. I think the only reason he was probably named was due to like Soldo being in last week's team. So I'd be surprised if he came in this week to kind of chop out Rowe much. Maybe you're right, he's a bit sore, but for me, if Soldo had stayed in, Boyd probably has a better chance. Because he's out, I would doubt that he gets a game.
Oh, I really hope Marshall's right. To me, he's our most important player, and like it showed in Adelaide when he wasn't 100%. We really struggled without our fit and firing Marshall. So yeah, I really do hope he's okay, and he's at least 90% if he's not 100. But on that note, discussing the midfield, obviously unfortunate timing for us. Zach Butters returns, typical. So I guess that'll bring us to the midfield discussion, I guess, because if Butters hadn't been in, I would have been really keen on shutting Horne-Francis purely based off the last time he played us. Not that he's in the greatest form to start the season, but now that Butters is in and Rosie, I think, Ollie, you even touched on, I think you'd be pretty keen to shut down Rosie. So did you want to start us off with discussing the midfield?
Yeah, I was in our little run sheet, I just wrote Hugo in full caps because I felt like it was about time we were able to see a full game inside mid of Hugo Garcia. And he flourished, to be honest. Like, he was all over the ground. In what I've written down, he had 17 pressure acts, which is second highest for our team. 8 contested disposals, only 4 turnovers in his 23 touches, 9 tackles, 6 clearances, and he kicked a couple of points as well. So that's, for a second-year player, that's an incredible impact, especially in a game that we dominated across the board. So that's what the Saints fans have been crying out for a long time now, seeing Hugo in the midfield full time. Maybe the steal laid out was a blessing in disguise, so we could see these guys flourish a little bit more.
Yeah, bang on. I definitely felt the same. I did a big thing with Jake over the summer. Just showed him some of the stats, and per minute, Hugo last year was almost unmatched in our team in some regards. And yeah, I mean, seeing him get past that sort of 60 odd %, hopefully get him pushing towards 70% attendance on ground. It'd be, with similar levels of output, hopefully we see, things that are really good. And he showed a little bit of that this past week. If we can continue it, that'd be great. One thing I do question with the inclusion of Steele after last week is, at moments we sent both Windy and Hugo in there, and I wouldn't say Hugo's a tagger by any means, but he definitely locks down well. So for me, I'd be interested with how Steele, those 4 kind of interact with the inclusion of Steele this week. So yeah, I'd like to see moments where we could get that sort of those 2 back in there if we're struggling, and hopefully shut things down.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that as well, because I noticed a couple of times there was Garcia and Travaglia in together, and it was sort of great in a way, because it was like the youth coming through, and what a time to do it, coming up against Richmond to give them that experience. But at the same time, I do think that's where we sort of struggled a little bit. And sort of a shout out to Zach Jones, because he got put in the middle a few times, and I thought he really made a big difference just in terms of aggression and hunting the ball and the opposition. So I've actually really been impressed with the start to his year. I think I touched on it maybe a week or 2 ago that he had a really good end to last year, and he's just carried that nicely through to this year. I think he might not get as many touches, but he's really cleaned up his disposal and his decision making. Like last year, he used to be a bit take too many on, or go with a second, third option as opposed to just banging it, because he's actually really good decision maker when he just goes with his first option, and he's really good at finding the ball, really aggressive. So happy for him to get off the sub, which he was quite good at last year as well. But yeah, I've really enjoyed seeing what he's brought to the team too. And just on Toby, I thought he had a really good, solid debut. Yeah, he nearly hit the scoreboard as well, which is always exciting to see. And Hugo's so close to snagging a couple too, so that'll be really exciting when that happens as well. But that's probably what I'm most scared about this week is Port's midfield, particularly with the return of Butters. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see if we throw Windy to Rosie to Butters. Let's hope that Horne-Francis doesn't get going, because he's very dangerous when he does. He's very explosive, and I think we struggle with that matchup. But yeah, I guess we'll sort of see how it plays out. But I think our midfield's looking a lot better with Steele back in there anyway. So we might move on to the forward line. What are we thinking there? Maybe with some key matchups and just how the forward line's been gelling together.
Yeah, honestly, Mason Wood for mine has been a standout this year. I planned on looking at the Coleman stats and the marking stats this afternoon. I didn't get a chance to, but I think he's kicked multiple in all of our games so far. Maybe not the Geelong game, potentially. He had 2 first week. I think he had 3 last week. He's been playing that sort of a high half forward, but also drop back deep forward as well sort of role. Not quite the wing role that we saw him playing last year. And that's obviously because of the absence of King and Sharman over the last. Obviously, Sharman was back, but the first 2 weeks of the season, I think he looks at home. He looks like he's in the best form he's ever been in at St Kilda. And, his impact not only on the scoreboard, but up the ground as well. He's such a smart footballer and he knows what's going on. So he knows where to lead. He knows how to get into space. He's a leader as well on field. So I think he's been an integral part of the forward line so far. And he's the sort of guy that won't be taken if we've got Keeler, Machito, Cooper Sharman lining up in the forward line. Mason's the sort of guy that will push up and will be on an undersized opponent. He can potentially get open for a couple of cheap marks, maybe 45 out, and that's a distance that he can score from. So I'd like to see another big game from Mason Wood continue his good form.
Yeah, bang on. I did a little video this week, and it's something I didn't really note in the stats too well, but the Saints forward line is quite effective at the moment, to the point where Max Hall, of players that have played 3+ games this year, he's rated 72nd overall for score involvements percentile. And then all of our players that have played 3 games besides Max are generally above him. So he's actually surprisingly not the very best in our side, despite playing quite well with it in that regard. So our forward line's working very effectively, to the point in which I think there's a comment on the side there about Hammer going forward this week. I wouldn't entertain the thought at all. Things have been working really well, and Hammer's been doing really well down back as well. So I think right now it'd be, as a few have mentioned, hard to get into our forward line, which is a good problem.
Yeah, absolutely. And I feel like we've almost quickly forgotten about Tim Membry, which at the start of the year, everyone was sort of saying, I can't believe we got rid of Membry and all this. But I actually think, I know we had Wood last year, but he's almost, for me, doing just what Membry would do, and perhaps even better. Like, he can push up the ground, he can take a mark, and he's hitting the scoreboard. So, yeah, I really agree with the impact he's had so far. And he's another one who's such an important player for me. I think he's really crucial. The size of him, like how versatile he is, and he's such a leader and a role model in our team, and he really sets the tone. So, I've really liked how he's gone about it. And then I also wanted to discuss Mitchie Owens, because his second half was just brilliant, and I think he can just forget about having a set shot. His snaps were just the way to go. I don't like his set shot anymore. He's just proven.
He needs to have a chat with Draper. He can snap it from wherever he likes. he's good. Yeah. I love Mitchie, but that set shot is a little bit worrying sometimes. But as long as he can just turn around and kick it, I think it doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm really liking how our forward line's gelling at the moment, and it's almost bringing back memories of last year where we were saying, how does King even slot in? So I think they're starting to learn how they play with each other. Even Cooper Sharman was a little bit rusty to start the game, but really got into it as it went on. And even Collard and Higgins are they the 2 small forwards now? Because I know it's early days, but I really like Collard's endeavour this year too, and makes it hard for Dan Butler to get back into the team, and he'll be ready to go in a week or two, or potentially playing VFL this week, I would imagine. So really positive when you're seeing players like that struggling to get into the team. So hopefully that can continue. Because that's where you want to be.
Something I just noticed as well, we haven't got Liam Henry. At all, kind of in the extended bench potential thing. So I think for Butler, who's about to hopefully get back on the track, probably going to have to do similar things, go back to the 2s, force his way in.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Henry's lining up in the VFL this week, if I read that correctly. And to be honest, at this point, I'm happy for Butler to stay in the 2s. I think the Collard Higgins dynamic is really good. You've got Higo, I don't know how to describe the way he plays. I don't have in my head, it doesn't work, but for whatever reason, it works for him, and it's working really well for Saints footy. And Collard is more of a live wire. He's what Dan Butler's obviously a couple of years older than he was in 2020 when he went crazy and had his All-Australian level year. But Collard's got a bit more of that pace, and he seems to have the tenacity now to, lay a rundown tackle and to try and he did that run out of the centre square and almost kicked a goal from it. He's got that in him. And we don't really have any small forwards that have been doing that in the last few years. So I wouldn't be mad if Dan Butler couldn't crack back into our team.
Yeah, similar thoughts. Also, Maxi Hall as well, kind of been playing that sort of third small forward. Been amazing. I think he's kicked 2 goals almost every week, or at least he's had 4 odd shots every week. So he's done really well. Hopefully he keeps his spot and keeps putting the pressure on, keeps kicking those goals.
Yeah, definitely. How nice has it been to have these type players come in and just slot right in? And it's just, I don't think I've been this excited about our youth since maybe 2003. I don't know. Like it's pretty exciting. And I don't know, maybe we're getting carried away ahead of what's going to be a very tough month ahead. But so far I like what I see. But we'll move on now and we'll get through to the back line. I know people have mentioned Caminiti playing forward, so I was sort of going to touch on, I think he held his own again this week and was pretty solid. Lynch, like he's a strange unit, to be honest, because I think he's so capable, but getting towards the end of his career and he seems more interested in roughing up feathers than getting a kick. But I still think Caminiti did a good job after what I thought was going to be a bit of a shaky start, but he just looks very composed down back for mine and very level-headed, and he's still so young, and I'm just really looking forward to seeing what he can continue to bring. But that was sort of what I wanted to touch on from the back line, apart from the obvious Sinclair, who had such a dominant game. I mean, 40 touches, and he was brilliant the whole game, even when we were a bit iffy to start with. I thought he just absolutely dominated. So shout out to Sinks as well.
Yeah.
Do either of you guys know what Tom Lynch was actually getting into with Wilkie in the goal square? Because I was at the other end of the ground and I just saw all the cheer squad and all the fans around the area get up, and I wasn't really sure what was going on.
I mean, I was high on the wing. I didn't get like a great close view of it, but it just kind of seemed that like there was a bit of remonstration post like the O'Connell incident, and I don't think like the crowd ever really stopped talking about it at that sort of end. So I think it just kind of became a part of the game rather than a moment that you could kind of go past. So yeah,
nice to see him get humbled, to be honest.
Yeah. I've never been a huge Lynch fan, I'll be honest. But no, definitely. Otherwise, no, in terms of the defense, we've been pretty good. I've been really happy with Caminiti. Wasn't one that I fully believed could go back and kind of do what he's done. But so far, I've honestly struggled to bring in like a Dukes if he comes back. If say he was back tomorrow, it'd take Hammer like having a bad game or two for me. He's getting like crazy numbers in spoils, crazy defensive marks, just intercepts a lot. So I'm happy. I'm happy with him.
Yeah, I like just on that as well. I'm not sure why they keep making it that Keeler's in the back pocket and Caminiti's at full forward. I don't understand the point when we're all pretty confident they're going to be swapping positions. But yeah, I was quite like not nervous, but we saw in the last couple of years, sometimes when he gets the ball going forward, he sort of rushes it, and he's, we've seen him miss the boot a couple of times, but he's been, I think you said, Alana, he's been super composed with the ball. And he's shown that maybe he's got a little bit more to his game than we thought originally, which is great. I thought Jimmy Webster stood up in O'Connell's absence. He played probably a little bit bigger than he actually is. First half especially, there was a few big spoils that he chased down that I thought was really good. Like the second half doesn't matter so much considering the game was out of reach for Richmond, but when the game was in the balance, I thought he stood up.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, he flies under the radar a bit, Webster. I feel like he very rarely gets beaten. Even like in a one-on-one contest, like if him and his opponent are both sort of chasing after the ball, I'm always pretty confident that it'll either be a 50-50 minimum, like tie it up sort of thing. Like I don't really see him get beaten too often. So yeah, he sort of doesn't maybe get the kudos or yeah. I don't know. He's probably, I reckon, like opposition fans are like, who's Jimmy Webster? Apart from maybe Roos supporters, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
was going to mention. Yeah, no, love Webb, but I don't think everybody does. So yeah, no. Otherwise, defense has been great. I worried a lot with Battle leaving last year, and particularly after Adelaide, that got my heart pumping a little bit. But I mean, we've been really solid the last 2 weeks. At this point, it'd just be bring the same. Georgiades is a strong forward. I'd like to probably see Hammer on him over Wilkie, to be honest. Got a bit more length than Georgiades, got the strength. And then, yeah, Finlayson, I wonder if he plays forward or back this week. So might be somebody to keep an eye on because he just seems to turn it on against us. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's so annoying when these type players turn it on. Like I even feel like Charlie Dixon used to do the same, and you're like, seriously, are you kidding? But maybe that ties in nicely to our Oppo view. If we want to sort of dissect Port Adelaide a little bit more and who we're going to match up against and who the sort of, I think we've touched on the midfield a little bit. Feel free to go into that in a little bit more depth. But the team as a whole, looking at who they're bringing back, like we sort of mentioned, I'm assuming Finlayson does come back into the team, but yeah, will be interesting.
Yeah, like you said just then, Woody, about Georgiades, I think if you guys watched the Essendon Port game last Thursday, he dominated the first quarter. He could have kicked 5 goals in the first quarter super easily. I'm not sure who was playing on him in the first quarter. I know Zach Reid went to him afterwards and sort of shut him down, but if he can have that sort of impact, if he can kick 2 goals in a quarter, I can not quite blow a game apart, but that can change the tide and really let Port get a run on. So I think he is the most dangerous forward for mine. He's one of those guys that just seems to bob up. He's a tall forward, but he's quite good on the ground as well. He can pick it up and snap it quite easily. So yeah, in terms of the opponents, he's probably the one that worries me the most. Horn Francis is one of those weird ones, like we spoke about, just has a good game against us. Look, I'm not too worried about their defense. So unless Finlayson goes back there, I think their midfield is our biggest worry.
Yeah, agreed. I don't hate the defense in any regard, but I think we can score on them. Alia's always been a bit annoying. Bergman's quick out of defense. Sin's similar, same with Evans. So there's a bit of like pressure that will need to be applied. Otherwise, yeah, in terms of like who we're going to have to man up on, Georgiades is the main worry. Finlayson as well, to a degree. Ollie Lord is a name that probably isn't discussed a ton outside of Collingwood circles. I believe they've wanted him for a year or so now. But yeah, it's one of those ones where he could potentially be a problem for us as well. So yeah, we do need to kind of keep an eye on how they structure their forward line. They've got a lot of semi-dangerous smalls. I'd say Burns can push up quite high and get back quite quickly. So he's one to watch out for. Likewise with Willie Rioli, he is just good at getting on the feet of anybody really and picking it up. And likewise seems to just get free. He's similar to Higo in that regard. On a turnover, he knows to run forward. So they're kind of the ones I'd be quite worried about in the forward line. Richards could do some damage, but I'm not as worried. And yeah, that's kind of where either end I'd kind of how I feel. Midfield, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah. Oh, whoops, wrong one. This one. Yeah, so I'm a bit annoyed that Essendon pipped them last week because now they've sort of got their backs against the wall because they really should have beaten Essendon. And I watched that game and I have to say it was a god-awful game. It was just like the skill level, I don't know, it was just a very hard game to watch or get into. Like, if they show up and play like that, I'm like, come on, like, this is our chance. But, I mean, obviously that was at Marvel and they play a different sort of game in Adelaide and we particularly seem to struggle away. Not that we ever seem to play them that often at Marvel, but this is in Adelaide. So yeah, I'm a bit nervous about them wanting to come out. And then yeah, Butters back does give them a bit of extra, and it's just a triple threat then in their midfield, which is concerning because I do still think I think our midfield's getting there, but we're definitely going to be tested coming up against Butters, Rosie, and Horn Francis. And I'm particularly worried with Horn Francis just because I don't think we have a great matchup in terms of his explosiveness. So I don't know. I'm hoping because he started the season very quiet. I've picked up on that because he's in my super coach and he's not doing it for me. But that I'm happy for that to continue for another week and he can have a quiet one. That's fine. But yeah, I think Marshall should be able to get on top in the ruck. Sweet's not too bad a player, but I think Marshall has got him covered. So I'd be looking for a big one from Marshall, provided that he is fully fit. But yeah, I think it's going to be won or lost in the midfield for mine, especially at centre clearance. I think that's still maybe our weak area where we just don't. If we do get a clearance as well, I want it to be a damaging one, and I think we're working on it. Like when we do get a centre clearance, we're starting to use it better, but we just need to do it more often. So yeah, I really hope we get on top there. I think our forwards, we're a little bit unpredictable down there, and like even I don't know who Radaglia is going to match up on. He's a fairly big body. I think we can sort of run them and not sort of do the high bombs, and we can really damage them on the ground, hopefully. So that's what I'll be looking at, and I guess that brings into the discussion of how we do get the job done against them. So, like, what do we think the key to winning the game is?
Honestly, I don't. There's parts of me that isn't particularly too worried about this game. If it's like if the same St Kilda rocks up that finished last week, and the same Port rocks up that finished last week, this should be a pretty easy win. But like, it's obviously not. I think we'll go there and do good either way. To get over the line, I think we've probably got to shut down their small forwards. I'm not too worried about their tools in some regards, but I do worry about Horn Francis going forward. Likewise, maybe Butters does that. Christian Moraes can do that. Burgoyne has had a capacity to just go off on us every time we've played and generally get a goal. So it's a little bit about their movement from the midfield to their half forward line. When they don't actually grab it, we've got to shut it down and be smart with our movement out of rebound 50, so we don't invite pressure. So I think we do that, and we don't need to worry too much about the midfield outcomes. We're good with the stoppage, so I'm not too worried about what a centre structure will do versus our stoppage structures. I think it'll all kind of balance out. It really just comes down to like, yeah, we got to make sure they can't win those stoppages. They can't get repeat entries. Smart out of defence, hold it up after your first kick, figure out where you're going, that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it's almost, I think I might have spoken about it before that Adelaide game. It's almost either end of the ground. We need to take control because we know their midfield is and can be the most dominant at some point. And if we can take advantage around the ground in other areas that they may be lacking, then we might be able to have an advantage. And I think one that might be a little bit less thought about / spoken about over the weekend will be Isaac Keeler. I think if he plays deep forward, I think Alir will do most of the work on him, considering Isaac's more tall and slight. And Alir's one of those guys. He's an intercept mark player. He always seems to stand up against us. I think if Isaac can at least bring the ball to ground and do the best he can to compete, which he's done really well so far, considering it's been his first couple of games, and he's and like in the Geelong game, he was cramping at the start of the second half. So he's obviously working up his match speed. And I think if he can compete, snag a goal or two, our smalls have been playing incredibly well so far. So if he can just bring the ball to ground and give him a chance and not let Alir control the sky too much, I think that'll be big. And then if we decide to send Windy to someone, whoever he tags, if he can have a similar impact to the Geelong game, where even if Max Holmes, as he not got off the leash, but he had an impact in the second half, but Windy's impact stayed larger than that. If he can, whoever he plays on, if his impact can negate whoever his opponent is, whether that be like the comment you brought up, whether it be Butters or Rosie, like I mentioned earlier. I did sort of think that before I knew that Butters was coming back, so that might change. Horne-Francis is obviously dangerous when he runs through the midfield because he plays a lot of forward. So when he does go in the midfield, he's got a lot of pace about him. So I think whoever Windy's matchup will be massive.
Yeah, I agree. I'm really curious to see who Windy goes to, particularly at the start of the game. Who his first task is. And shout out to Jack, who's provided a few good comments for us. Even Stocker to Horne-Francis is another interesting option. Obviously, Stocker's pretty hard at it, so if he can stop him from getting the ball to begin with, that could be a key matchup too. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. It was one that I saw in the corner and then kind of forgot about. But it's a good idea. As generally kind of has done those jobs in the past, shut down. What was it? Patrick Dangerfield late last year. I think he could do it. Just needs to make sure he's up to the task.
And on top of that, Horne-Francis, we know, doesn't really like having the extra attention. So if he can just get in his head a little bit, probably throws him off his game.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. So before we discuss who we think is going to win and the margin, I just wanted to get your thoughts on if there's like a particular player for us that you're looking forward to watching this game. Normally we do a bit of it under the microscope, but I feel like after an 80-point win, that's going to be a bit of a tough ask to come up with anyone. But maybe someone that you're really looking forward to watching, or maybe you like their game on the weekend but think they can take it up another notch. Is there anyone you're sort of really looking forward to seeing what they can do against Port?
Off the top of my head, it'd probably be. I'm kind of jumping between three players right now, but I'd probably say Burns. Honestly, the reason I say that is because he's been effective with ball, which has kind of been good. Having him float between that wing position and kind of half back. He's definitely not as effective as, say, Naz or Sinclair. But I would assume Naz and Sinclair get a fair bit of effort into them this week, which hopefully opens up that opportunity for Burns to do a bit more. So for me to be, if he's going to be playing back, he needs to be that man that can take over as well when they decide to try and shut down our runners. So I like Burns. Just keep doing it, do it a little bit more, and he can have his spot. It'll be good.
I'm struggling personally. I don't know. There was no one that I thought maybe Darcy Wilson's been a bit quiet to start the season. Be nice to see him really hit his straps and have a good game. But aside from that, the only one I can really think of is potentially Toby backing up last week. Obviously, first game, 80-point win. He had a lot going for him. Potentially he was more motivated than some of the other midfielders at the end of the game, or as the game went on, especially the Richmond players. So if he keeps his spot and starts rather than starts as the sub again, it'd be nice to see how he goes in a full game against a more competitive opponent. And if they try and get into him a little bit, either that or Cooper Sharman, he's had his first game back in the side. He kicked a goal. Not sure if he kicked, can't remember whether, I think he kicked 2 in the end. But to see him after having a full game, have another run at it. End of last year, he was incredible. So I'd love to see him get back to that form again this week.
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you mentioned Wilson, because he was probably going to be mine. And I was happy he bobbed up and kicked his nice goal. But yeah, I just feel like he's sort of been the one player I don't reckon we've mentioned really this whole season so far. He's kind of just flown under the radar, and he's been okay. But there's been some games last year, I think it was, I can't remember if it was Carlton or Geelong, where he absolutely just killed it I think it was in a quarter, like he just went nuts. And I just haven't seen him do that yet. Geelong?
Yeah, I think it was Geelong.
Yeah. So I'd just like to see him bring a bit more of that. Not that he's been bad by any stretch, but yeah, just bringing attention to him a bit more, I suppose, because he's definitely just flying under the radar. And he's definitely capable of hitting the scoreboard. And I'd love to see like a 20-plus disposal game. I don't know what his stats were on the weekend, but I didn't notice him a heap. So yeah, I'd like him to sort of have a bit more of a dominant game. Let's say 25 touches and a goal, which is, I know it's a pretty big ask, but especially interstate. But I think that would go a long way, because I think he's going to be a special player for us. And I can't wait to see what he can do and do it more consistently, I suppose.
Yeah, bang on. The only other one I can kind of think of would maybe be Bradley Hill. He's been a little bit slow starty. Kind of worked his way into both games. First game, there's a few people calling him out for the lack of effort. And I think he got 8 disposals. I don't remember. But yeah, I mean, the last 2 games, he also kind of started a little bit slow and then kind of came into it as the game went. So I'd like to see him just start, at his best and then, keep it going. Because if we can get on the outside of Port, they're going to struggle to chase. They are, a lot of their players are forward runners. Most of their wings are kind of forward type wings. Burgoyne kind of floats a little bit back, but if we can just get on the outside and get a little bit of pace, they'll struggle to keep up. So it'll be hopefully a good one from him.
Yes, I'm looking forward to it. Should be at least an even contest, and if it's close, can we be on the right end of the when the siren goes? Can we be the ones leading for a change? Would be nice. So, on that, I'll get your tips and margins before we finish up, so we can watch the Collingwood Carlton blockbuster coming up.
I think that coming into the season, a lot of people had Richmond's first win being against us. There was a lot of, I suppose, experts, quote unquote, most of the time those sort of teams get their first win in the first 7 to 8 weeks. And a lot of people thought it was going to be St Kilda. And we've shown that we're a lot better than that. And I think a 3-1 start would prove everyone wrong, no matter how the season pans out after that. Beating sides like Geelong, who are still in a lot of people's premiership favourites, and Port Adelaide, who have been prelim finalists in, I think, 4 out of the last 5 years or something like that. That'd show a lot of class from our team, a bit of character, show that we've developed more than potentially a lot of people in the media and the footy landscape think. So I think St Kilda go to 3-1. We win by 22 points, and Isaac Keeler breakout game, kicks 3 goals. That's my big call.
I like it.
Yeah, I like that a lot. I've got Saints winning. I'll tip them. I haven't really thought about a margin exactly. I've just felt confident that we're going to get it done, kind of break the curse, that sort of thing. If I were to go a margin, I don't think Ollie's far off the mark. I'm going to say we actually kind of continue the form of last week. I was kind of thinking, do I go like a goal or 2 either way of Ollie, because I thought he was pretty close. No, I'll go against that. My first card has been like we've been pretty strong, for the last 2 weeks, and I haven't particularly thought Port have been great. I don't have them making finals. I didn't really think so from the start of the year. Yeah, I reckon we're giving. I'm going to say like 45.
Oh, nice.
Take
that.
Yeah. I'd like it. I don't know if I believe myself, but I'm pretty confident we win. So I'm just going to go with a number that I think, we get it done pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I'd love that. And I've noticed a couple of people have said that they think Naz will go berserk and really go crazy. And I'm hoping it's for the right reasons and not because he's trying to show off to Port Adelaide. But I'd love him to have a huge game and them to just be really jealous when he signs with us the next week. That would make my day. But like I said, I thought Port were very ordinary last week, and it'll be really annoying if they turn it around in a week and come out firing. So I'm hoping they don't, and I'm hoping we continue on our good form, go in with some confidence, back it up. But I do think it'll be pretty close because it just seems to be how we go about games against Port. But I'm going to tip us by 15, and Jack Higgins can continue his form too and kick the first goal.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I think we're all pretty happy with those answers. Yeah, awesome guys. Well, if we're going to call it, I guess I'll say my thank yous for having me on as well. It was lovely to properly chat with you both. Been in the chats before, like many of the people over here. So thank you for everybody coming along as well. And yeah, I'll probably see you guys sometime soon, no doubt.
Yeah,
good to have you on.
Thanks so much, Woody, and thanks to everybody else for tuning in. It's been great, good chat, and hopefully there's plenty more chats following an 80-point win. Can't go wrong with that. So bring it on Sunday. Go Saints, and I'll leave you all to it.
Go Saints.
Cheers, guys. Go Saints.